Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all honor, glory, and praise to the Most High God, whose true name is Yahweh, through his only begotten Son, whose true name is Yahweh Shai. I give a mighty strong shalom to the brothers on the highways and hedges amongst all camps, pushing this word in truth and sincerity. Shalom to the sisters in this truth, who are reverent to their husbands and doing all that they can to keep the commandments and have the faith. And shalom to the children as well, who are doing all that they can to reverence their parents and keep these commandments and have faith in these last days. Shalom to the nation as a whole, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and people of the Caribbeans who are the true Israelites according to the Bible. So the title of this lesson is Hebrews 101, Beware of thy speech, because it is important to take heed to what we say, whether we say it consciously or ignorantly, whether it be good or bad. These things all play into effect when you truly understand the Bible and understand that your words have weight. And it's a very serious thing to watch what you say and to really be conscious of what you say, no matter to the best of your ability, I say. So with that in mind, we can just get right into it. So we can start off with James chapter 3. This is James chapter 3, and we'll start at verse 3. Behold, we put bits in the horse's mouth, that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. So the same way you put a bridle, I believe that's what it's called, in a horse's mouth, you're able to turn it and steer it wherever you would like it to go. Verse 4. Behold, also the ships, which though they be so great, and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whichsoever the governor listed. And so the same way you control the horse by their bridle is the same way you control the big ship with the small steering wheel. Verse 5. Even so, the tongue is a little member, and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a manner a little fire kindleth. Because your tongue, what you say, can bring about a great storm that you really do not need to have happen. Because I know personally there's been a lot of situations where a lot of tension, a lot of heated arguments, even fights broke out because of things that were said. And things could have easily been quenched if a matter was resolved using words in a peaceful manner. However, because an opposite approach was taken, things escalated to things that shouldn't have happened, all because of what was said. Right, so that tongue can both make you very proud and it can boast of very great things. Also, you can speak humbly, you can speak sincere. So these all are things we got to remember when we're speaking and how we speak. Verse 6. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue amongst our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and is set on fire of hell. Verse 7. For every kind of beast, and of birds, and of serpents, and things in the sea is tamed, and hath been tamed of mankind, because all of these things can be tamed, all of these beasts can be tamed and trained, if you will. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Because sometimes we might get in our emotions, we might get in our flesh, and so we might tend to say things we don't really mean. But in that moment, we disregard the conscious effort to try to restrain ourselves, and we just at times say things that may be detrimental to how a person receives it. Right? Verse 9. Therewith bless we God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceeded blessings and cursings. My brethren, these things are not to be so. So the same way you can bless someone is the same way you can curse someone. The same way your tongue can be an unruly evil, it can be a comfort to someone. So there's two manners on which you can speak. You can speak to uplift someone. You can speak to tear someone down. You can speak to really be that, how would you say, that brother to someone, or you can be that adverse person to someone. Right? So these are things we have to consider with our speech. So now let's go to James. We're going to stay in the same book. We're going to go to James chapter 1 and 19. So this is James chapter 1 and 19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. So You want to practice this trait as much as you can because it's wisdom. This is wisdom right here in the book of James, as you want to be quick to hear your people. You want to be quick to hear the matters out before you speak, because there can be a lot of situations you can avoid by being slow to just lash out and get your point across. If you're being patient, you hear the matter out, you'll be able to give a better response. You won't be so quick to just respond out of emotions or how you're feeling in that present moment. Right. So that's something I encourage every brother and sister to do, is to be swift to hear them out, regardless if you disagree, and be slow to speak, meaning given a time to process what was said and give an adequate answer. Right. And not to be just so quick to be angry because they said something you may not have liked, regardless if it's true or not. All right. So now let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 4 and verse 29. And Lord willing, this may be edifying for whichever brothers or sisters may see this. All right, so this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 4 and verse 29. Be not hasty in thy tongue, and in thy deeds slack or mist. So you don't want to be so quick in your speech to just say something just to say it, because we're going to read later in the scripture, Lord willing, that being hasty sometimes and trying to be wise is not really the best course of action, as you can be counted as a fool by just trying to force yourself to say something that's wise in a moment that is not called for. So you also don't want to be hasty in saying something that is going to offend someone, or just to get some type of message across that you feel needs to be had in that moment when it doesn't. Right. So in like deeds slack or remiss, meaning you don't want to be slacking your deeds or be remiss with them either, meaning not being slothful. But the point is that you don't want to be so quick to just say something. Really, as an expression, think before you speak. And that's something we're going to tackle in this topic or this lesson, that you want to be careful to think of what you're saying and how you present what you're saying, instead of just saying it. And it's just saying it and then somehow making it work to make it seem like you know what you're talking about. So now let's go to Ecclesiasticus 28 and then 25. And I encourage every brother and sister just to write these down and just to go over them on their own time, so that the Most High may allow you to understand as well. Lord willing, of course. And so this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 28 and verse 25. And weigh thy words in a balance, and make a door and a bar for thy mouth. So the same way you want to make weigh thy words in a balance, meaning consider what you say. Do I really need to say this? Do I really want to say this? Why do I want to say this? Like having those internal thoughts before you even speak can lead to you saying something more productive and more constructive, if that makes sense. Right. And so, and make a door and a bar for thy mouth, meaning if it's something you really don't need to say, but you want to say it, you probably should not say it. If it's something that's not constructive, not really something that's going to help a brother or sister, not going to build them up, strengthen them in some type of sort of way, then it probably should not be said. And I don't mean you can't have conversations with your brothers and sisters. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in a way of uplifting and encouraging, instead of tearing down and trying to, how do you say, this in a manner of tearing down, because we know we have to rebuke our people, we have to correct them, but we don't want to do it in a manner where they feel like they just can't get up and it's just all bad for them. Like, we want to make sure we do it in a manner where we rebuke them with love, and that we encourage them out of that rebuke, and that in whatever shape or form it may be, because some people are hard-headed. They might need stronger rebuke than others, but it's all about how your approach is, what you say, how you say it, and what your intention behind saying it. And so let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 32 and verse 8. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 32 and verse 8. Let thy speech be short, comprehending much in a few words. Be as one that knoweth, yet holdeth his tongue. So in every situation, now this isn't saying you have to be quiet all the time, but it's about you being wise in certain situations and knowing how you really want to answer something or speak on something. Because you can be in a room, for example, you could be in a setting where a lot of people are talking, having different discussions. You might see like this is not the best time to give my opinion or my explanation on something, it's just not the moment or the time. My comment, my contribution to the conversation wouldn't be profitable right now, so I might hold my speech and then save it for another time. Then the other time might present itself, and you might feel the obligation to speak on something. So when you let your speech be short, you can comprehend what someone is saying, but you don't always have to give a thorough, detailed explanation either. Right? Be as one that knoweth and yet holdeth his tongue. Just being on that level of self control and temperance to where you know when you should speak and when you should not speak, how you should speak, how you knowing when and who to speak to, and knowing what settings call for you to speak and what settings call for you not to speak. Because you'll be in a lot of situations where you don't really need to speak on anything. You can comprehend what someone is saying. You might pick up on a lot that people say, but you don't feel the need to answer or step in for something. You see it plenty of times, even in the world. So even in this truth, we see it as well that a lot of times brothers and sisters they won't speak on something because it's not needed. Right. So that would be you letting your speech be short, even though you understand what is being said, you don't need to speak on it. So we go to Ecclesiastes, I believe, 5:2 now. So this is Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 2. Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything for God is in heaven, and thou upon earth. Therefore let thy words be few. Now in this verse it's saying the same thing as Ecclesiasticus chapter 44 and 29, as well as what was it? The other verse we brought out in James chapter 1 and 19. And so in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, it's talking about you making a vow unto the Most High, or going into a vow per se. So you don't, even with vows, those are very serious things and very serious matters. You don't want to just say a vow just to say it. You want to have that weight and weigh those words and what you say, and how you make that vow in a balance. Right? So you don't want to be so quick to just say you're going to do this vow and then you don't fulfill that vow, as that would be a very dangerous thing. Right? So you don't want to be hasty in that manner either. With praying, with making a vow, you want to consider what you're going to say and the effect of what is going to happen after you say it. Right? You have to really consider these things and not just think that your words are just words. That would be a very big problem. Right? So you don't want to be hasty when it comes to speaking to your brothers and sisters, and you certainly don't want to be hasty when it comes to making vows and promises to our God. Right? And so we go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 20 and verse 7. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 20 and verse 7. A wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity, but a babbler and a fool will regard no time. So the same way we read in Ecclesiasticus 32 and 8, how you want to let your speech be short, but you comprehend much, but you don't always feel that necessity to speak. That's the same way in Ecclesiasticus 20 and 7. That wise man, that wise woman, they're going to hold their tongue till they see that opportunity is fit to speak on it. Because there's plenty of examples I can think of where there's been a brother or sister who people will count very wise. And so they know that that individual, they don't speak on something unless it's needed. And when they speak, it's something very edifying and it's something that can be learned from. Right. So that's that type of manner you want to be in. Not to say you can't speak often, I'm not saying that, but when it comes to being wise and not just saying stuff just to say it, you want to make sure you're really waiting for certain opportunities to speak and holding your tongue when it's not a requirement to speak. Right. But that babbler and that fool will regard no time. I get you can think of plenty of examples where someone who just talks and talks and talks. They don't even say anything. They're just talking just to talk. Like that's someone who would be a babbler and a fool. They just don't have any consideration of what they're saying. They don't really think on what they're saying. They just want to talk to be heard. Right. So you want to make sure that you're examining yourself to see which one you want to be. You want to be that wise man or woman who knows when to be quiet and when to speak, or that babbler and that fool who just wants to talk and make it seem like, I won't say make it seem like, but just wants to be heard. I'll keep that short. Okay, so we go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 5, verse 12, I believe. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 5 and verse 12. Because now I want to bring this example out as a way of dealing with our brothers and sisters again. Because we went through in the beginning, just in general, we want to have control over what you say. We went over how you want to just be, you want to let your speech be short in certain instances, and you want to wait for opportunities to speak if it's needed. And so we also went through how you want to be careful what you say to the Most High God in terms of making vows and promises. And so now we want to deal with how we want to be careful on what we say towards our brothers and sisters and how we answer them. All right, so this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 5 and verse 12. If thou hast understanding, answer thy neighbor. So if you have understanding, now I'm going to take this in a different example. So the Most High gives you understanding on a particular topic, on certain understanding that another brother or sister may have. And you and a brother or sister may come to you, ask you for advice, ask you on a certain topic. Like, hey, can you help me with this breakdown? Can you help me understand this? Help me with the milk, help me with etc. If you understand it, if you have the knowledge, wisdom, understanding the Most High imparted unto you, answer that brother and sister. There's no reason why you shouldn't be a service unto your people, right? If not, lay thy hand upon thy mouth. So if you don't know, if you're not really sure, it's not really something you should be diving into or, how would you say, trying to give a very thorough breakdown on. You can guide them and direct them to somewhere where they may learn properly. However, this is still revolving around being careful of what you say and especially dealing with understanding. Because if you do understand something, help your people understand it. Give them that understanding that they need to grow. But if you don't have the full understanding yourself, then you shouldn't really answer them and try to give them a breakdown that they're looking for, an answer they're looking for. Right. And so now let's go to Proverbs 17 to 27. Because this is all just dealing with the same topic of dealing with the same topic of your speech in many different forms. Because it's not just one way you can control what you say or how it applies to what you say. It can apply to people, the Most High, even in your own thoughts, I say. So let's go to Proverbs 17 and 27. This is Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 27. He that hath knowledge spareth his words, and a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. So he that hath knowledge, he's going to be careful with what words he say. He's going to be careful on how he presents certain information. What's the best way to do it? What's not the best way to do it? He's going to be considerate of these things that need to be said, right? And so a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit, because he's going to have the understanding of knowing that with this understanding, I should go about presenting it a more fruitful and edifying way. It doesn't have to always just be me just screaming at someone. It doesn't always just have to be me just trying to force understanding upon someone. No, it can be me just being careful on how I say something to that brother this moment and how I say something to that sister at the next moment. How I can just be all around more knowledgeable on what I say and who I say it to. Because we know that there'll be certain times where our words can get us in certain situations we can't avoid. So let's go to Proverbs 21 and 23. This is Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 23. And this is going on to the point I mentioned about how sometimes your words can get you into things that you could have avoided had you kept a patient tongue. You really kept your tongue in check. Be careful. Careful of what you said, I should say. It's like it. But this is Proverbs chapter 21, verse 23. Whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from tough troubles. Because there would be a lot of situations where tale-bearing, gossip, slander is involved. And so if you get tangled in that and you indulge in that, you start to speak on things you don't know about. You start to spread lies. You start to indulge in that spirit, because that can be a heavy spirit that can get upon multiple people, right? And so you join in on that. now you're not safe from trouble. Now you're liable to be in those type of things that will present trouble unto you because you couldn't keep your tongue, you couldn't keep your mouth, and you weren't considerate of the things that were said. So like yeah. But I'll read it over from the top. This is Proverbs 21:23. Whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from troubles. So if you know when the right time to speak is, and you know that if I say this right now, it's not going to be any good for anyone. It's more so going to be a detriment to me. That wise man is going to refrain from speaking, as we just read in Proverbs 17:27. Right. And so we want to be considerate on how we go about situations around us because a lot of people can be speaking on things they have no knowledge about, whether it be other people, whether it be just anything. And so you want to examine those situations as well. See, do I need to comment on that? Do I need to reply to the things that they're doing because I just want to be heard? Right. So now let's go to Proverbs 13:3, I believe. Make sure my screen is zoomed out. Okay. This is Proverbs chapter. Nope, 14. This is Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 3. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction. Because, like I brought out in a previous verse, how a babbler will regard no time, that same person, he can just talk so much as to where he end up dead. You see that plenty of times where people just don't know how to just stop talking. They like to ignite that fire in a conversation that leads to very destructive things that happen, right? And so we see it all the time. But are people who get into arguments, are people who let small disagreements turn into something big. Now someone is dead. Get into something big. Now someone is in jail. Now a fight broke out because someone did not keep their lips shut, for a better lack of a better term. Someone did not take that time to really think that did I need to say this? Do I really need to do what I'm gonna do with my words? Right? But he that keepeth his mouth, keepeth his lips, keepeth his life. Because a lot of people who are wise in those situations, they'll back away. They won't feel the need to just talk so much and try to get a point across, whether it be a good or bad thing. And so my point of going here was that you want to be careful of what you say in conversations. It could literally be any conversation you have with anyone. Consider why you're speaking it. What is the effect of you speaking this? Is it fruitful? If it's not, you probably should not be saying it. If it is, I would advise to just speak on it in a manner that gets the point across, right? Because there's a lot of things you can avoid by being quiet, but there's a lot of things you can get into by speaking too much. So there's a balance, is my point. So now let's go to Proverbs 15:4, and I'll get that in a different translation. So this is Proverbs 15 and verse 4. It says, kind words bring life. And I'll read it in the GNT. It says, kind words bring life, but cruel words crush your spirit. Because I'll use an example of building a brother or sister up and encouragement. You can bring a brother back up. You can give them that strength that they need to continue to keep pushing in its truth, to continue to pray, fast, read, study, and apply. Or you can just be that cruel brother or sister that's just always getting on somebody and it's crushing their spirit to where they feel like they can't pick themselves back up. Now you have two spectrums right there. You have where you're giving them words of encouragement, words of upliftment. You're being understanding in your word and your conversation, right? As opposed to the other person who may just be getting on someone who's speaking cruel words in a way of trying to tear them down to crush their spirit. Shalom, sister. Shalom. But the point of me going here to Proverbs 15:4 is to really have you understand that, once again, going back to James 3, you can bring life unto your words, or you can bring cruel words, which can crush someone's spirit. All things deal with the things, that deadly poison that comes from your mouth, if you will. There we go to Proverbs 16:14 now. Proverbs 16 and 24, I believe. And this is all dealing with pleasant words, as we went through various forms of how communication can be brought across to someone. All right, so this is Proverbs 16 and 24. Pleasant words are as a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones. because you can give so much sound advice, so much I won't say so much, but so many pleasant words as to where a brother or sister they might feel 10 times better than they had previously had you not spoken those things. And this could be applied to every verse that I brought out about being having that opportunity, finding the opportunity to speak, not being so hasty, hearing the matter out. All these things are factors in how you give a adequate response. Right. So those pleasant words you can give to a brother or sister, they can be sweet to their soul, which can keep them encouraged and can really do more than you can really think of when it comes to helping your people. And it's help to their bones. I mean, they're gonna have that strength. All right, so let's go to not Proverbs, Colossians 3:8. Because now we dealt with words or verses that dealt with pleasant words and how that can be life unto our people and knowing how to move in that manner. But now we're going to go to things you should avoid in your speech, things that aren't really going to help you in the long run. So let's go to Let's go to Colossians 3:8, because these are things. Now I want to get into the things you want to avoid saying in your speech, the things that aren't really profitable for you to be saying. Now, this is all wisdom as well. So I would encourage brothers and sisters to try, well, I don't want to say try, but apply this as much as they can and examine whether it can grow, because you all have some room to grow at the end of the day. So this is Colossians chapter 3 and verse 8. But now, well, I'll start over. But now you also put off all these. So these are some of the things you want to put off in your flesh. Now, I'm not saying some people don't deal with these certain things stronger than others. I'm saying you want to make that conscious effort to put these things away from you by praying, by fasting, by going into the word, dealing with each topic I'm going to read. And so these things will build you up. You obviously have to have faith that's going to allow you to do these things that you want to accomplish. So this is Colossians 3:8. But now you also put off all of these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Because you can let your anger build up so much as to where you say something that you ought not to be saying. And once again, I'll bring this example out. Plenty of times where I've seen it in my personal life where a conversation might start off neutral, it might be peaceable, but then later on it built up to chaos solely because a lot of words would be said that will cause anger, wrath, malice. And so because those spirits aren't really examined and really quenched down, they start to build up and fester into words that start to turn into actions. And actions start to turn into something that leaves someone hurt, whether it be physical or I would just say internal, if you will. Right, so you want to make sure you put off all these things: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, right? Filthy communication out of your mouth, because all four of these things can lead to you saying something very unfruitful and very detrimental that can lead you to being destroyed in various ways. It doesn't always have to be physical, it can be mental or spiritual. All right, so let's go to 1 Peter 2:1, because it's going to echo the same thing in Colossians. This is 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 1. Wherefore, laying aside all malice and all guile and hypocrisies and envyings and evil speakings, as newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word, that you may grow thereby. So you want to lay aside that malice, that guile, and those hypocrisies, because all praise to the Most High, this conveniently goes into our topic of being aware of what you say, because you can have malice in your mind to where you're going to say things that are going to show that you have that malice. And we're going to touch on that as well in the teaching of Yahushua. Because you can have that malice as to where you start saying things that indicate that you have some type of malice towards a brother or sister. That guile or deceit, if you will, can be shown towards a brother or sister with your speech, right? Sooner or later. You know, some people like to cover up how they have malice or guile for someone, but if you let someone speak long enough, they will show their true intentions, right? And hypocrisies, because a lot of people, we know this well today, we're bringing out the truth to a lot of our people. Like, you'll see the hypocrisy. They might say one thing, but the action's so different. So that's another way you want to be careful of your speech. Actually saying what you're going to do and then doing it. Not saying something as it just something that's just tossed in the air and then not backing it up with action. Right? And envyings and evil speaking. So any type of evil speaking you might have against your brothers and sisters, you want to cut that out. You want to examine yourself and change that, right? Because you don't want to sit here and imagine evil upon your people, no matter if they may have done something to you, no matter if they may have said something to you. You want to move in that manner of the Messiah, because he didn't get back at people just because of what they said. He was on a mission. He was about the Father's business. Yeah, so now let's go to Ephesians 4 and 31. Um, Ephesians 4. Don't put that again. Ephesians 4 and 31. And it says, let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking but be put away from you with all malice. So the same thing that was wrote to the church of Colossus, the same thing Peter wrote, the same thing wrote to the church in Ephesus. These things all deal with your speech. They all deal with you putting off these things that can strengthen your speech to bring upon negativity or bring upon something dealing with any type of evil speaking, whether it be wrath, anger, clamor, malice, guile, evil speaking, just all manner of things that can be really examined and then purged out of you, right? So let's go to First Peter 2 and verse 21. I think it's the same. Yeah, we're going to go back to First Peter. First Peter chapter 2 and verse 21, because we have an example. We have a standard. We have I'll just leave it there. We have a standard. We have an example. And that's Yahweh Shai, our Messiah, right? So let's see how he walked and what he did. So let's start at verse 21. This is First Peter chapter 2 and verse 21. For even hereunto were ye called, because Mashiach also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps. So even Yahweh Shai makes this known that the purpose, when he was here, he told our people to repent. He told people to, unless you repent, you should likewise perish. And so with that, you want to conform yourself to the ways of the Messiah and walk as he walked, because we know that he did not sin, neither was that gall found in his mouth, as it reads in verse 22. Who did no sin, neither was gall found in his mouth. Now we know that sin is transgression of God's laws, because we know he was perfect. Right, and so neither was gall found in his mouth. And when you go into that word gall, it just means deceit or lying. As the Messiah didn't lie, he didn't have any deception in what he said. He was very straightforward with the things that he said and the manner in which they were said. And so we want to make ourselves in that same example, not willfully sinning, doing our best to stray away from sin as best as we can, and then not having any type of gall found in our mouth, because that's something that elect will have. I will get there real quick as well. That's something that elect will have. They wouldn't have any gall or any type of ill speech in their type of lives as well. Now, obviously, we got to work on purging these things out. It's going to take time. Stuff doesn't happen overnight. But Lord willing, it can be an encouragement to really strive to put these things away from your speech. Not everything has to be a tit for tat. Not everything has to be you getting back at someone through what you say. Sometimes it's better to just let it be, examine yourself, and move forward, and knowing that everything does not need a reaction. Everything does not need a comment. All right, so this is Revelation 14 and verse 1. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. So this is the lamb talking about Yahweh Shai and 144. Right? And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of great thunder. And I heard a voice of harps and harping with their harps. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000, which were redeemed from the earth. Reading on to verse 4. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they were virgins, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God, unto the Lamb. Now, when it's talking about they weren't defiled with women, that's just going into them being really corrupted by any philosophy or doctrine, right? For that virgins. This isn't literally saying they never had sex with anyone. It's just saying they weren't defiled with any other philosophy or doctrine, right? These are they which followed the Lamb whithersoever he goeth, and they were redeemed, being the first fruits. And that's talking about them having that first reign with Christ. Like verse 5. In their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. So the same way the Messiah he didn't have any guile in his mouth, the 144, they're gonna pattern themselves in that same manner. Right? So we can go to Ecclesiastes 27:6, because this is going to go into what I mentioned really not too long ago about the things that you think within your mind, you're going to speak them. Right? So this is Ecclesiastes chapter 27 and verse 6. The fruit declared that the tree had been dressed, so is the utterance of a conceit in the heart of a man. So whatever, when you deal with that word conceit in the heart of a man, it's just dealing with your conscience or how you interpret certain thoughts. And so whatever you utter is because of the conceit in your mind, whatever you're thinking, right? We'll get another scripture to prove that. But it's just giving a point that whatever you're thinking, that's usually what you're going to speak or what you're going to say. All right, so let's go to Matthew 12 and 33. Lord willing, this is making sense for brothers and sisters who may tune in later or who may be seeing this now. Let's go to Matthew 12 and verse 33. This is Matthew 12 and verse 33. Either make the tree good and his fruit good, or else make the tree corrupt and its fruit corrupt. For the tree is known by his fruit. Now we know that that's similar to what it said in Matthew 7, that you're going to know a tree by its fruit, meaning his works, right? And so this is still the reiterance of the same understanding that you're going to know a tree, and we know it's talking about man, is going to be known by what they do, right? So your fruit is symbolic of your works, right? Verse 34. O generation of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Right? So whatever you're thinking, whatever you're really meditating upon, you're going to speak it. That can be in a conversation with a brother or sister. If you're really thinking upon saying something to that person, you're going to say it. If it can be good or bad. Next, that's really the way that Yahweh Shai here is trying to make that point clear. Verse 35. A good man out of the good treasure of the heart bringeth forth good things. An evil man out of the evil treasure bringeth forth evil things. And once again, this goes right back to James chapter 3 about that tongue not being tamed, about it being unruly evil full of deadly poison. That's why we see so many things of why we got to put off anger, wrath, clamor, and really be conscious of what we say. Because if you're that good man, you're having those pleasant thoughts and those pleasant words, you're trying to be as, I won't say peaceable, but you're trying to really take heed to what you're saying as much as possible. You're going to bring forth good things. But if you're just so given to all these different adverse left hand spirits, you're going to say things that aren't really profitable because you're meditating upon them for a long time or you're thinking upon them heavy. That's why you have to be conscious and keep our mind with all diligence, as it talks about in Proverbs 4 and 23. For out of it are the issues of life. So those issues can overtake you to where you start saying things due to you meditating upon whatever it may be, whether good or bad. All right, so now let's go to, no, we can keep reading down. This is Matthew chapter 12, verse 36. But I say unto you, that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give an account thereof in the day of judgment. For thereby thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. So whether it be good or bad, once again, every single word that you speak is going to be brought into judgment. Whether it be you being a hypocrite, whether you having to deal with envy, speaking stuff out of envy, speaking things out of anger, speaking stuff out of malicious intent, slander, guile, all types of things. These things are going to be recorded against you and brought to the day of judgment. And you're going to be justified by what the things that you said, whether within reason. Did you back up your words with actions, or did you really take heed to the things that you said? Or are you condemning yourself by the things that you said throughout your life? Right. So this is something I encourage brothers and sisters to meditate on as well. Knowing that knowing that your words have a very heavy weight to them, as we read in Proverbs 20, Ecclesiastes 20 and 25. You want to weigh those words in a balance. Really consider what you're saying. So we're going to get the same message in Luke, which talks about in Matthew 12. So this is Luke chapter 6 and verse 45. And it says, "A good man out of the good treasures of his heart bringeth forth that which is good, and an evil man out of the evil treasures of his heart bringeth forth that which is evil. For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaketh." And we know that our heart is just a way of saying your mind, right? So whatever you're thinking, you're going to speak on it. And I'll go over one more scripture just to get that point across, and we'll move on. Let's go to Proverbs 27 and 3. 23 and 7. It's a lot here. This is Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 7. "For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith thee, but his heart is not with thee." Right? So, whatever you think means, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. So, whatever you're thinking, that's what you're going to move like. That's what you're going to say. That's how you're going to operate. Unless you, and I'm not saying you can't change the way that you're thinking. You can't change it for the better, or that your mind can't change for the worse, as it can be either or. But whatever, whether it's good or bad, your mindset is in, those are the things you're going to bring forth through your communication. If that's making sense to brothers and sisters. But let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 29 and verse 20. Okay. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 29 and verse 20. "Help thy neighbor according to thy power, and beware that thou thyself fall not into the same." Now, this is really going into what we went into in Proverbs 17 and 27, and 21 and 3, and Proverbs 13 and 3. How you want to be able to help your brother and give those pleasant words unto them, but you want to be considerate as well, knowing that those same things can happen unto you. Those same spirits can try to hop on you and get you to speak on things that you should not. Try to get these spirits to provoke you to speak down upon our brothers, speak evil of brothers, say all these type of hateful things towards your people, or really just in general, just have this malicious, envious, covetous nature to where you want to just speak on things that you are not. So you want to be considered as that, as you want to strive to give pleasant words to your people, to try to comfort them, or just give sound, wise advice as much as you can. But you have to be aware that those spirits are still present, and those spirits can hop on any one of us. Just wanted to keep that in mind and bring that out so that brothers and sisters understand that it's not wrong to give these words of encouragement or to rebuke someone in a more constructive manner. But you have to understand those things can still happen unto us and provoke us, or these spirits, I should say. So now let's go to Proverbs 14 and 29. Right, so this is Proverbs 14 and verse 29. And this is going to go with what I brought out earlier in James 1 and 19 about being slow to wrath and slow to speak, right, but quick to hear. "He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalted folly." So I will connect this with James 1 and 19 by saying, same way it says you want to be quick to hear, you want to hear your people out. You want to hear every matter out that's being presented unto you, or that you're taking heed to. And so you don't have to speak on certain things, but if you examine the matter, if it's something you need to speak on, then there should be no reason why you shouldn't, unless it's something you seriously need to just refrain from speaking on. Right? And so you want to be quick to hear, slow to wrath. Because when you're slow to wrath, you're not going to be so quick to just respond out of anger. You're not going to be quick to respond out of envy, out of strife, out of just wanting to debate. You're going to be a great understanding because you're going to hear the situation or the matter out, or what's being told unto you. So let's say someone is speaking down upon you, you hearing it directly from that person. You're going to have that understanding spirit to see, okay, should I react this way or should I say this? Should I not say this, or should I maybe wait until another time till I see it fit to bring it to their attention? And this is dealing with you examining an opportunity, right? But he that is hasty of spirit exalteth folly. You're so quick to speak. You're just so quick to give in to anger, so quick to give in to just wanting to argue, so quick to give in to really any adverse thing that's gonna cause you to increase that flame or increase that situation more than is needed, you're going to exalt that folly. You're going to just give into that flesh and that desire of wanting to just go tit for tat, um, rendering that evil according to, how would I say it? Oh, render the evil that they've done unto you. Salaki, I was trying to think of the word. But nonetheless, the point that I was trying to make is that you want to be slow to wrath, as that gives you a better outlook on how to react to every situation. I give a personal example. I've been realizing that once you take away all the emotions, the feelings, and whatever spirit that may try to hop on you, once you disregard those and you look with a clear objective to get the point across, obviously it's going to be with dealing with just the truth of whatever situation is happening. You can give a better understanding, you can give a more clear and concise answer, and that all still deals with your speech, right? So you don't want to be that fool who's just so quick to just speak just to get a point across or just to make some type of gesture, I guess. But you want to be slow to wrath and of great understanding, because it's going to teach you to be patient and hear stuff before you speak and learn how to speak before you react. 'Cause a lot of people do reacting before they speak, and that can lead them in places they don't really need to be in. So now look at Proverbs 29, verse 11. This is Proverbs chapter 29, verse 11. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards. Because a fool, I believe you read that in one of the scriptures earlier, but a fool, he's just going to say anything. He's going to really just talk just to talk. You want to talk to be heard. He's going to do anything, everything he can, no matter if the point makes sense or not. He's just going to want to get that. He want to be acknowledged. That person is going to want to be acknowledged by any sort of means. And so he's going to just say whatever in any setting, at any time, at any place. But that wise man, he's going to keep in what he needs to, what he wants to say, and instead says the things that he needs to, if that really gives an understanding. So you don't want to be that fool. Once again, you don't want to be that fool who just wants to talk just to talk. But you want to be that wise man who knows when to speak and knows when it's not necessary to speak. All right, let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 8 and verse 19. And I might get this one in a different translation. We'll see. If they let me find it. Let's see. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 8. Okay, yeah, we'll get this in a different translation. Slovakia. What's in Casper? This is Ecclesiasticus. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 8 and verse 19, and we'll read it in the GNT. Well, okay, no, we can start with the CEV. I'm trying to think, actually. Okay, GNT. We'll read it in GNT. That's a better one. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 8, 19. You should not reveal your most private thoughts to anyone. If you do, you might as well throw away any chance of happiness, because you might have the spirit to where you're not going to speak on things that don't need to be brought up. You're not going to reveal things that don't need to be revealed, right? So you don't want to reveal everything you're thinking or your most private thoughts to anyone, because that's not saying it has to be in wickedness, as you need to confess those things to the Most High. He sees what you think. He knows what you say. He knows what you do, right? And so when you don't want to reveal your most private thoughts, because you don't have to tell everyone everything. You don't have to mention everything you may be doing or everything you may have done or said in certain conversations to everybody. Because we know, and unfortunately, people will take things, run with it, and like to tell business. They like to spread things that don't really need to be spread, and that can be dealing with your personal information. You may confide within the brother or sister. You may tell to a brother or sister in hopes that they may keep it in and not reveal it to anyone, but that's just not the case. And some people will do that. But that goes into a different topic of examining who really is a brother to you, who's really a sister to you. right? But you don't want to be so quick and trusting of every single brother and sister that you may meet. You want to have discernment. You want to have those spiritual eyes to see if I speak this unto this brother or sister, will they keep it or will they go tell it to everyone else? Because not everyone else has control. Not everyone other than you may have that self control or that discipline to really hold in what they say or what they receive from others. All right, so now let's go to we're gonna go to Ecclesiasticus 13 and 13. We're gonna get in a GNT. Um, oh shoot, it didn't do it. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, we didn't put it in the right. So this is Ecclesiasticus 13 and 13 in the GNT. If it loads. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 13 and verse 13 in the GNT. Keep your secrets to yourself and be very careful, for you are always walking on dangerous ground. Right? So you want to be careful with what you say, and this is still going to be aware of your speech, right? Even dealing with the things you may keep personal unto you. You want to keep those things to yourself and be very careful. You're always walking on dangerous ground, and you can always easily just slip and have those things come back to bite you and lose your happiness, right? So be considerate of who you speak to, what you say, and how you say it. And so let's get to Ecclesiasticus chapter 18, verse 21. Is this? No, that's not really what it's not what I wanted. Slovakia. We'll go to, yeah. Okay, this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 20, verse 1. There is a reproof that is not comely, because you might get a strong rebuke or you might get correction with strong words that may not be comely. It's profitable. It might be very profitable, but it might not be comely as in a way of it being told unto you in a way that is more soothing or likable, right? Again, son man holdeth his tongue and he is wise. Because we see in Proverbs 27 and 17, a wise man spareth his words, and that wise man is going to seek opportunity. So he's going to refrain and hold his tongue back. He's going to be counted as wise, right? So you want to be able to be observant and literally in every situation and be circumspect, dealing with the things being said in the manner you move in, because not everybody's going to have um, that integrity or that sensibility to really look within themselves and see, am I saying too much? Do I need to be quiet or do I need to say more? Does this require me to speak more on this or do it require me to speak less? So you have to take it upon yourself to work on where you know you lack at. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 20 and verse 5 through 7. There is one that keepeth silence and is found wise, and another by much babbling becometh hateful. Right? Similar to things we read at Proverbs 29 and 11, Proverbs 14 and 29, about that babbler being a fool, right? He's going to become hateful because people are going to start to acknowledge him as that one brother, sister that just can't be quiet. They just talk about everything, even things that don't have relevance or importance or things you can learn from. It's just talking just to talk. Right, and there's one to keep it silence and it's found wise. Because usually, I won't say usually, but sometimes individuals who are really silent, they're really thinking upon, I can't say all the time, but typically, I say in my personal example, we're thinking upon things that are within the Bible, things that are rooted in self-examination or wisdom. And so, or someone just may not know what to say in a moment, and that still be counted as wise. They'd rather to be quiet than not to just say anything. Right, verse 6. Some men hold his tongue because he had not an answer, as he just mentioned. And some keep it silence, knowing his time. A wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity, but a babbler and a fool will regard no time. Right, so I'm pretty sure that makes the point clear. Strive to be that man who sees the opportunity when to speak and when not to speak. If you don't have an answer, don't give it. If you want to keep that silence, or you know it's not really expedient for you to speak, don't speak. It's rather to not speak than to be a fool, counted as a fool, just wanting to talk. So we'll jump down to verse, let's see. Okay, yes, verse 20, because this is another aspect of dealing with a wise man trying to seem wise and speaking before his time. Right, so this is Ecclesiastes chapter 20 and verse 20. A wise sentence shall be rejected when it cometh out of a fool's mouth, for he will not speak in a due season. So you might have very wise words, very wise sentences, but you might miss the opportunity to speak it, if you will. You might say something that's not relevant. It might be in wisdom, but it might not be relevant to the conversation being had or presented in that moment. So now we can go to Proverbs 21:16. For example, like a brother or sister may be talking about how to really build their spirit up, and you're trying to get wisdom on financing. Brother, they're trying to do things on the spirit and try to build each other up on things that they lack, and you're here trying to give them wisdom on how to get the best shoes and how to attain this when they're not focused on it. If that makes sense. I know that's probably a bad example if it's a lot here. Uh, but the point is, I was trying to get across is you can bring some wisdom that brothers and sisters need to take heed to, but it might not be in that present moment, as it might not call for it at that time. So this is Proverbs 21 and verse 16. The talking of a fool is like a burden in the way, but grace shall be found in the lips of the wise. So a fool who is talking, who has no sense of understanding, who's not really trying to understand or learn, but just wants to speak to be heard, they're gonna be that burden. They're gonna be like something in your shoe that you can't get out, or something that's blocking you to getting from somewhere you need to go. There's gonna be something of that sort of burden as to where it's a hindrance unto you, right? But that grace is found in the lips of the wise, meaning that person who is wise, they're not always going to feel the need to speak. They're not always going to feel that need to be heard. They're going to want to wait in certain instances, and they're going to want to speak in certain instances that require it. Right. So that's a beautiful thing to examine and to want to aspire to be that wise woman or sister who doesn't need to speak all the time. But when they do speak, it's very profound and wise. So let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 37 and verse 18. Make sure it's the right chapter. Okay. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 37 and verse 18. Four manner of things appear, good and evil, life and death, but the tongue ruleth over them continually. Because as we read, this is going back to that foundation we have established with James. The appearance of good and evil, life and death. That tongue can bring forth blessings. It can uplift people. It can bring those peaceable, pleasant words, or it can bring about cursing. It can bring about death. It can bring about destruction. All these things that can destroy someone or build them up, bring life into someone or bring death into someone, right? So the tongue really has control over them both, which is why I emphasize throughout this live that it is very important to take consideration on what you're saying. Don't just think that your words mean nothing when you say them. They do, and they always will mean something, right? Whether you intentionally know it or not, right? And so it can be for good or it can be for evil. You can say something to intend it for good, but it may not come that way upon a brother or sister, or vice versa. So it's just about that. It's about having that true um, understanding of really really thinking on how you move with your communication and everything. Make sure you're being effective and concise with everything that you say. And it might take work, it might take time, but that's all right. You have to really make that conscious, sincere effort to want to do better through the Spirit of the Most High. He will give you that strength to do so. The Most High is not going to hold that back from you if that's going to help you increase in wisdom. So now let's go to Proverbs 11 and 30. This is Proverbs chapter 11 and 30. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that when it sows is wise. So even with our conversation on how we go to the highways and hedges, Slovakia, he that when it sows is wise. How are we winning our people over? How are we getting them to acknowledge that they're Israelites, that they're God's chosen people, that the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, he died for them only? How do we get them to understand that they got to keep these laws, statutes, commandments, and believe on the Messiah? Is through our speech. How we get them to understand our point and our message by being, first, we should be meek, we should be patient, and we should be sincere teaching His word, helping them understand that there's value in taking heed to our culture and regaining our inheritance, right? And so with that understanding, we're going to be counted wise because we're helping them understand in our conversation and how we conduct ourselves and what we say and how we say it to reach our people. So that's another way you can be aware of our speech. We can be aware of our speech, as we can say certain things that might repel our people off. You may say things that may push our people away from the truth, whether it's in wisdom or not. Let's say it's in wisdom, that's fine, as that's just the Most High not using them. But we want to make sure we're doing our best effort to relay that sound and patient response to our people, regardless of how they receive it or not, because it's not of us that they receive that understanding, it's of the Most High. But we have a job to do. We have a task. We have to be patient. We have to get this message to them whether they hear it or not, right? So that's dealing with your speech as well on another on another fold, right? So we can go to 1 Corinthians 9 and 20, because this is going to deal with how we reach our people. We may not experience exactly the same thing as them, but we may have some sort of understanding as a collective nation to give that sound and pleasant word unto our people. And every time it's not going to be pleasant. Sometimes you got to get on our people's head because we are stubborn and stiff-necked people. We understand that. But not every situation calls for it. And you want to have that discernment to know which case is which. So this is 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 20. And unto the Jews I became a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. Right? And so when we bring this out, we give the understanding that we meet our people where they are. To someone who may know a little bit about the law, we expound upon that little bit that they may know in the law. If they don't know anything, they're just now learning that Israelite, they got to keep the commandments. We'll build on that nature. Someone knows they're Israelite, they keep the commandments, we build on that foundation. But it's all being considerate on where our people are in that situation in their lives. And so that takes an extreme amount of consideration and love for your people to want to sit there, consider what you're saying, and is how you're going to make it effective for them to understand and grow. So let's go to Second Timothy, Salakia, chapter 2 and verse 24, because this is going to go with what I mentioned about being patient, because we're servants of the Most High God. We have to do all that we can to reach our people in the frame that the Most High God has given us. So we have to do it by any means necessary. And that's going to take adjustments from us, because we can always speak better. We can always improve our communication to our people better, so that they don't always just think we're loud Black Hebrew Israelites, so that we just can't let people speak. We're just so rude, it's so obnoxious, when that's not the case, right? We do our best to make sure we help our people understand who they are. Now, we have some brothers, some sisters may have very different tactics, but the point is we want our people to learn who they are, right? And so there's always things we can grow in. So this is 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 24. And the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all men, apt to teach, patient, in meekness, instructing those that oppose themselves, if God peradventure will give them repentance to the acknowledging of the truth. So I go here to encourage my brothers and sisters to always be patient with our people, to always be patient and meet in our conversations with our people on the highways and hedges, because we need to help them understand the importance of seeking the Most High God, keeping His laws, having faith in the Messiah. These are all things that's going to help us improve as a nation, as we've been so destitute and distraught of for so long. Right? And meekness opposing themselves, if God would then to give them repentance to acknowledging the truth. And so that's why I said that it's not of us that we do anything. It's just our job to relay this message unto our people. Because the Most High, He sees who's fit to receive His word and who's not. Right? Verse 26. Then that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil, who are taken captive by him at his will. Because that's just going into a people being into a lot of different worldly lusts and a lot of different fleshly lusts, if you will. Not really understanding how to turn from those things, or even what it means to I said it that way, just to really turn from those things and know what it means to truly serve God. Right. So now let's go to I think I want to go to Philippians 2 and 3. Let's see if that's what I want though. Let's go to Philippians 2 verse 3. Okay, yeah, okay. So this is Philippians chapter 2 and verse 3. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than themselves. So you want to do these things in lowliness of mind and meekness, not to just strive, not for vainglory. You don't want to be giving these, you don't want to be speaking unto your people just for strife or just to receive glory from man. But you want to be lowly, you want to esteem your people better than yourself. You want to have that mentality that you're not really better than your own people. Right. So I bring that out just in a way of saying, oh, I let my brothers and sisters know you want to be aware of how you speak, even with teaching our people. You don't want to make it seem like you're just so better than them because of the understanding the Most High gave you. When no one deserved any of this understanding the Most High gave. It's of His mercy and His will that we do this, right? But we don't want to let those things puff us up, Salakia, with any type of pride, thinking we did anything to deserve it. So we're going to be humble, meek, and sincere with teaching, and being aware of how we can communicate our speech better with our people. All right, so now let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 11 and verse 7. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 11 and verse 7. Blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first, and then rebuke. So I'll touch here first. Same thing we read in James chapter 1 and 19. The same way we read in Ecclesiasticus 32 and 8. The same way we see in Ecclesiasticus 20 and 7. And various scriptures we brought out. You want to be not so quick to just speak. You don't want to be so quick to just want to get an answer out. You don't want to be quick to blame in this verse right here. Right? You want to examine the truth. You want to examine any type of thing or any type of statement being given your way or being presented to you. Understand it first, regardless if you disagree or not. Understand it, even if you may not understand it. Hear it out first, and then rebuke. Give your correction and give the proper understanding. Right, verse 8. Answer not before thou hast heard the cause, neither interrupt men in the midst of their talk. So you don't want to just answer without hearing the call. You don't want to be so presumptuous to just answer before someone gives a reason. We see it all the time with whoever comes against us, Christians, apologists, Muslims, whoever who is of our people in all these different religions. They are just so quick and hasty to just present our ideology for us instead of hearing us out first. And they can make the case that we do it too, but that's just all around a more credent example of why we need to take heed to what we're saying and not being so quick to just want to be right all the time. There's different manners to where you can go about being right instead of just being quick to just force your point on someone, right? But you also don't want to interrupt men in that speech in the midst of that talk as well. Just being patient and not being so hasty, right? So let's go to Proverbs 18 and 13. This is still going to deal with the same topic of not being hasty in Ecclesiasticus. So this is Proverbs 18 and verse 13. He that answereth the matter before he heareth I'll read it from the top again. So like here. Proverbs 18 and 13. He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. So it's a shameful thing if you're just trying to answer someone before they even speaking, trying to give someone their answer for them instead of hearing the matter out. So you want to take that time to be patient, exhibit the fruits of the spirit, dealing with how is it, temperance, or self-control and patience. Right? You want to be able to exemplify these things with your actions and not just speak to make it seem like you are patient, to make it seem like you're not hasty. The whole time you're being a hypocrite. So once again, dealing with being careful with what you say. Right. So now we're gonna begin to close out. So let's go to Proverbs 16 and verse 32. So this is Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit And he that ruleth his spirit is better than he that taketh the city. So I bring this out to say that you want to have rule over your spirit. You want to be slow to anger because you're going to be better. You're going to be considered better than the mighty. You're going to have that rule of your spirit, which is better than he that taketh the city. Because we know that this is our temple. Our bodies are the temple of the Most High, and that these are our spiritual house. So you want to have rule over your house, right? Have rule over the things that you do and the things that you say. Have that have the fruits of the spirit truly in the how would you say, truly implement truly implement the fruits of the spirit to make sure you have that proper rule of your spirit, and you're truly controlling these spirits that may try to hop upon you, right? In various different forms. And this comes with a lot of examination that's really required. It's not optional at this point. And we're seeing the signs that the Most High is giving. We're seeing all these things that are coming to pass. And so it's more time to take um, more urgency. It's time to do more. Right? So this is the Colossians. Is this where I want to go? Where am I going? Okay, here we go. This is Colossians chapter 3 and verse 12. Put on, therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, as we are God's chosen people. We're his elect. We are his people chosen from the foundation, right? You want to put on all these things then. Bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long suffering. All of these qualities goes in how you conduct yourself, and how you conduct yourself and meditate upon these things. These are going to prompt you to change the whole way that you speak, change your outlook on conversations you have as a whole, and improve your communication, not only for your people, but to have a true representation of our culture, to have a proper reason to defend our culture, to show that we are adequately learned in what we're studying, right? And even with a small understanding of dealing with your speech with your people, you want to make sure you're cutting off all types of ill manner of speech that's gonna hinder you in this truth. That's gonna put you back more than it sets you forward. Right. So now let's go to Second Peter chapter 1 and verse 5 through 10. Right. And besides this, giving all diligence. So you want to be giving to your diligence. You want to give diligence. Obviously, we know this is something that's required at this point. You have to be diligent, right? So with that diligence that you want to pray to the Most High and ask to grow in and build upon within yourself, add to your faith. Recount all the times the Most High God has strengthened you. Add to your faith by reading the scriptures, indulging yourself within them, understanding your culture and the things within it, right? Virtue, meaning having a morality. We know that our morale comes from the Most High, right? And to virtue, knowledge. Add to your knowledge. And to knowledge, temperance. Add self-control. You don't need to speak on every single matter, and you don't need to give any type of hard explanation for everything. Some things require you to, some things will not. Pray that the Most High gives you discernment in those instances as well. But be aware of what you say. And to temperance, patience. And to patience, godliness. And to godliness, brotherly kindness. And to brotherly kindness, charity. For if, shalom, shalom, hopeful elect, shalom. For if these things be in you and abound, they make you that ye shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. So in this, we see from verse 5 to verse 9, these are all attributes. The same way we read in Colossians, the same way we read in Ephesians, how you want to put those things off. We read in Colossians and 2 Peter to really get the point across. You want to expel certain spirits from you. Do all that you can to put these things off for you and put on these new traits. Right? So it deals with knowledge, temperance, self-control. Well, it's that same thing, but patience, faith, virtue. Put off that old man who may have envying, murder, debate, strife, covetousness, evil speaking. All these things, put that old man away, dealing with the conversation in the manner which you move, and put on the new man who deals with being knowledgeable, being wise, being self-controlled, being patient, being godly, having that brotherly kindness, and showing that brotherly love, right? Because you're going to abound and be fruitful. And like Yahweh Shai said, you're going to know them by their fruit. And no good man can bring forth evil things, right? Verse 9. But, now here's the contrary, but he that liketh these things is blind and cannot see afar off, and hath forgotten that he was purged from his old sins. So if you forget, if you don't abound in these things, if you like in these things, and you go back to that old man of just speaking just to want to be heard, not being careful what you say, just saying anything, letting your emotions and your feelings and these spirits, these diverse spirits hop on you and cause you to say any and everything that you feel justified in, you're gonna forget that you're purged of that old man and that you took the necessary steps to purge him away. Right. So we want to be cognizant, we want to be very meticulous on how we speak, on the things that we do to make sure we're really focusing on keeping ourselves in check in our speech and taking the proper necessary steps, right? Because much is given, much is required, right? So we're going to read to verse 10. Wherefore, the rather, brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if ye do these things, ye shall never fall. If you put on all these virtues, if you constantly abound in them, if you constantly meditate within them, you're not going to fall, right? So let's go to Acts chapter 17 verse 11. This is Acts chapter 17 and verse 11. Right, so these were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind. So you want to take this verse and use it as an example in your personal life, right? Look at the men of Thessalonica, and that they were received the word with all readiness of mind. Be ready to receive the word with readiness of mind in any way, shape, or form, brothers and sisters. And search the scriptures daily. So you want to search the scriptures daily, whether the things were so. Now in this context, it's talking about dealing with how Paul read out certain things to them, and they were being willing to search these things out. But even we can apply that to now, dealing with this topic, and even in general with the Bible. You want to search out these scriptures to see are these things actually being presented accurately? Are these things relating to the topics being talked about, or are they relating to the Bible as a whole? Right, so I encourage every brother and sister to constantly seek out the scriptures, to be ready to receive the word with readiness of mind, because it's going to help you grow and it's going to help you abound in a sincere milk. So let's go to John chapter 5 and verse 39. So this is John chapter 5 and verse 39. Search the scriptures, for in them ye think ye have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. Right? And so you want to search the scriptures, for in them we do have eternal life. For in them we do have that chance to believe on the Messiah. Like it, to keep the commandments, to really walk in the spirit of Yahweh Shai and believe in the Most High God. We have that through reading the scriptures by believing in them, right? So we have to take heed and search and read these scriptures as much as we can, right? Whenever the time presents itself that we're able to, because we know we're in captivity, we have all these things that are set against us that hinders us at times, right? So let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15. because now I'm going into pretty much the closing of what you should be doing, searching the scriptures for to confirm if these things are true. For searching the scriptures as well, for this is our eternal life. This is how we get salvation. Right? So this is 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So you want to also study to make sure you're approved of the Most High. You want to study to show that you actually understand what is being told. Not only that you understand it, but you comprehend it and are able to adequately explain it to our people who need it. You're adequately and growing, I should say, in your speech and your communication to put out the negative traits and put on the new traits. Put out the old man and put on the new. And I might put the what it means to die daily because that can relate to this as well. And putting off that new man, putting off that old man and putting on that new man. Right. So this is all intertwined with a lot actually. So you want to make sure that you do things to constantly show your study to be approved. Constantly meditate. Right. So now let's go to do I want to go there? Okay, I guess we can. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 5 and okay, here we go. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 5 and verse 10, and I read through 11. Be steadfast in thy understanding, and let thy word be the same. So you want to be steadfast in your understanding. Study to self yourself. Study to show thyself approved, and search the scriptures daily. Right? Be swift to hear. Same things we brought out and I've expounded upon, which I would encourage brothers and sisters to rewind and see. Be swift to hear, and let thy life be sincere, and with patience give answer. Right? So you want to be sincere in searching the scriptures and applying this word and walking in this truth. Right? You want to be quick to hear, but you also want to be patient when you give an answer. You want to be observant on when it's the right time and when it's not the right time. Right? So this deals with a lot of internal work, a lot of examination, and it deals with you cleaving on the Most High God, that He may show you where you need to work upon, and that He may give you the strength to work upon it. Right, so this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 13 and verse 5. Examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves, how that Yahweh Shai HaMashiach is in you, except you be reprobates. So truly ask yourself, brothers and sisters, are you in the faith? How are you proving yourselves to show that? What are you doing to show that you're really walking in the faith, showing that you're walking at the same way the Messiah does? I'm not saying we're not going to make mistakes. We know that we are. But what are you doing to improve and to not make those same mistakes willfully again? Right? How is Yahweh Shai being exemplified through you? Or are you just being a reprobate? This is something you have to ask yourself and consider. How can I grow? What more can I do? How can I seek the Most High God more? How can I cleave unto Him more? What else is there for me to do? Because we all have something to do, and time is not going to wait up for none of us. Right? So I'll close out with this last one. So this is 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 58. All right, so this is 1 Corinthians 15 verse 58. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast. I encourage every one of my brothers and sisters who may see this. Be steadfast. Let no man take thy crown. Give not thy strength unto any man. Study, apply, cleave unto the Most High God. Follow the ways of the Messiah. By doing this, you're never going to fall. And even if you do fall, the Most High, He will be there to pick you up and keep you going. Just keep the faith and be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. Because it's not just one way you abound in the work of the Most High. It's many different forms and many different fashions that you can help the body of Yahweh Shai and help improve the work of the Most High. Right? For as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Because our labor is not in vain if we keep the commandments, we have faith, and we do all that we can to strive. Right? So I want to get one more. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 1 and 13. So this is 1 Peter chapter 1 In verse 13, wherefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. So I encourage you, brothers and sisters, remain faithful, remain diligent, remain hopeful that the Most High will deliver us from our captivity. So, that He will give strength unto His people, that He will redeem us. We just have to remain faithful, hopeful. We have to watch and do our necessary requirements in our personal lives, right? So, Lord willing, this may have been edifying for at least one brother or sister. I'd like to give all honor, glory, and praise to the Most High God, whose true name is Yahweh, through His only begotten Son, whose name is Yahweh Shai, and say Shalom.